Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to give an update on the weather event that is currently hitting Kentucky and certainly will through tomorrow. There have been a couple of changes in the forecast, but I want to be clear. This is still a severe weather event that could cause significant harm to Kentuckians if we are not careful. It is taking a little longer to reach us than expected, but we certainly expect rain to turn into freezing rain and to start seeing ice in the Louisville-Frankfort area by 2 p.m. It'll start getting real treacherous at that point on the roadways. Should be hitting Lexington at or near rush hour, making getting home from work, if you're in at work, very treacherous in that area. Given that it's moving a little bit slower, there are some areas in Kentucky that it'll only hit at nightfall or even later. While some of the ice accumulation predictions have been somewhat lowered, the predictions in many areas are still a quarter to a half an inch, which can cause serious problems on the roadways, can cause down limbs that then knock down power lines. You'll hear in a minute, I think we've already have 4,000 people that are out of power. So while we will give you the latest update on what we think we are going to see, it is still significant. So the number one message is stay off the roadways if possible, as rain, snow, and ice continue through this evening and then through Friday morning. According to the National Weather Service, freezing rain is already ongoing in western Kentucky, and precipitation will transition slowly to freezing rain from northwest to southeast across Kentucky. We'll show you a map in a minute. It's changed a little bit from tomorrow, and what could see some of the ice is now a little further south all the way to Bowling Green, and some parts of the east like Boyd County are no longer in the most concerning band. But the areas that are in that are still expected to get a quarter to a half an inch of ice. Now, this event no longer appears that it will be as severe as some in the past. It's certainly not going to be like what we saw in 2009, but 2009 was one of the worst we have ever seen. It is still very dangerous, and we need people to respond accordingly. Due to the storm starting with rain, roads could not be treated with brine and rock salt as it simply washes away. In other words, the rain and then the ice and then the snow that may come on top of it makes it much more difficult to treat, which means if you are out on the roads when this happens, it will be harder to get to you. And if you are out on the roads and in an accident or just simply out on them, it will take us longer to treat them, to get them in better shape once we are able to get all of our folks out on the road. The National Weather Service said significant ice accumulation is expected between the Ohio River and the West Kentucky and really the Bluegrass Parkways. Travel is also going to be impacted Friday morning as temperatures, precipitation, and snow continue to fall. Flooding is also possible in South Central and East Central Kentucky, and possible river flooding into the weekend, especially the Green River Basin. We fully expect to flood. As a reminder, I've already declared a state of emergency so we could pre-position our assets, especially to help people that might be stranded. We also have signed a price gouging order that prevents people from raising prices and taking advantage of people during this time. Contact the Attorney General's office if you see any gouging. We closed state office buildings today to protect our people, knowing a lot of schools would also close and to keep folks off the road. Well, tomorrow morning, most likely during the time that people would be going to work, is also going to be very dangerous. So state office buildings will also be closed tomorrow, Friday. Please refer to the Kentucky Personnel Cabinet, given your specific position for what that may mean. Kentucky Emergency Management continues to activate the State Emergency Operations Center and personnel from the National Guard and the Transportation Cabinet, the Kentucky State Police are all out there working to try to keep us safe. Want to show just a couple of slides, and then I think Director Dossett will go over them again. These are the most updated predictions from the National Weather Service. Can we go to the first one? So as you'll see, the area of most concern in Kentucky, that is the purple area, really runs from the entire purchase area in western Kentucky up through Louisville to Frankfort to Lexington, and then down to E-Town and just barely into Warren County. The western parts of this are already getting hit and certainly feeling it. Now, this has changed a little bit from yesterday when the line was a little different and went all the way over to parts of eastern Kentucky. So if you were in that eastern Kentucky part and you're kind of in the bluish, that's a lot of where we think we're going to get the flooding. So you will be facing a different type of emergency, most likely. This is still a significant weather event for all of Kentucky, even if what you are going to get, depending on your region, is a little different. Timing has also changed. I think that most meteorologists would tell you that they expected this front to move quickly, to already be here. Maybe we will learn from this about the whys, but if you look at the next slide, it is moving very slowly into Kentucky and will move very slowly through Kentucky. So Louisville, Frankfort area getting hit with freezing rain by 2 p.m. It's going to be closer to 6 p.m. for the band underneath it, which is kind of just north of E-Town and Lexington, but Lexington's pretty high in that second band. So we expect rush hour to be very difficult there. Hitting by 10 p.m. in places like Bowling Green and a little further south, and then after dark in other parts of Kentucky. Remember, our temperatures are also going to plunge during these periods of time. Tonight, especially moving into tomorrow, it's going to be very cold. That's going to allow for more ice, whether it is on the roads or whether it is around your home. So be careful. Newest predictions on amount of ice, if we can switch to the next one. We originally had some predictions that were almost 3/4 of an inch of ice. They have been somewhat downgraded, but if you get hit with 1/2 an inch of ice, it is very concerning and very serious. So this is the most up-to-date information. If we get this amount, it's going to be a tough couple days. It's certainly less than 09. It's less than what we thought we might get originally, but it's still a very serious, significant weather event. You shouldn't get out on the roads now. I mean, this is enough that it should keep everybody off. And finally, the snow accumulation prediction has been lessened a little bit as well. There were parts of Kentucky where we had 2 inches, 3 inches predicted at one point. That is down. But again, the rain followed by the sleet, followed by the ice, followed by the snow creates a very difficult situation to clean and clear roads quickly, and it will make them more dangerous than if it was just one of these that we're dealing with. I'm now going to turn it over to Director Dossett. He'll be followed by Transportation Cabinet Secretary Jim Gray. I have one other update once that's done, and we'll take as many questions as we can get through. Director Dossett.
Thank you, Governor. And as the Governor indicated, we have had some better news on conditions. However, listening to all the forecasts and the calls, this is an extraordinarily complex system. And the Governor described it well. We started with rain, we'll go to sleet, we'll go to ice, we'll go to snow, and we'll go back to rain again. And this occurs over a 2-day period. So what you saw this morning, and if you can pull up the timing slide again, what we saw this morning is a stalled front, quite frankly, at the top of the state in between the boundary from Indiana to Kentucky. That stayed static for about 3 hours. And even the Weather Service, who we're in constant contact with, they could not determine what the cause was for the storm system to stall out. We have northern winds gusting from 20 to 25 miles an hour, and that assists in pushing the system south. But the bottom line is it's late developing. So that gives us some better outcomes and also some more difficult ones. The better outcomes are we're getting a reduced number of counties that will experience severe icing. As the governor indicated, we're already experiencing icing in our southwest counties. Paducah has seen a tenth of an inch, and that was just from 30 minutes ago. I will guarantee you that amount is up because they're fully into freezing rain now. We're seeing power outages surge 4,000 plus, and I think you'll see that across the band that you're going to see covered. So the positive is it should be a lesser amount. The negative is it's going to go into the evening and overnight hours, which exacerbates some of the risk for power outages. So in preparation, the governor authorized a state of emergency along with, I believe, 6 or 7 other governors across the country for this front. So we were able to pre-stage, and these teams include the Kentucky State Police, our Tier 1 partner, the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, our National Guard, some of our local response folks that will be out doing welfare checks if required. And they're staged at some of the transportation hubs across Kentucky to respond to events as they are required. So the long and the short of it is the same warnings apply. We would ask you not to get on the roads if not extremely necessary. Please give us a day to interact with the weather conditions. It's still going to be rough on Friday, but give us a day for the Transportation Cabinet to do the fine work that they do across the state. We're looking at a snow event after the icing. In some ways that helps, but it's still an ongoing weather event. We have about 26 warming stations across the state that are in standby. We have one that's open now, but that poses no immediate threat. And I think Secretary Gray will talk a little bit about some of the road temperatures, and that's the reason why we're experiencing a delay. Again, in the central part of the state, you're going to see the freezing start at about 2 p.m., and it will extend well after dark into the late evening hours. Don't let your guard down. Whether this is a reduced amount of icing, any icing is bad. We have our power cooperatives and our private sector vendors in the EOC as we speak. They're watching this by the hour, and they've staged company assets for mutual aid, and they're ready to respond. But any icing is bad icing. So this can still be an extreme event, and it can still turn into a life-threatening event. Secretary?
All right. Well, thanks, Mr. Director, and thanks too for the really extraordinary partnership that we have with Kentucky Emergency Management. The governor has said it well already. So has the director, that this is still a challenging and dangerous system. It's moving from west to east with a lot of volatility. The National Weather Service continues to predict, and this is in terms of travel conditions, continues to predict that travel conditions will become difficult to impossible across many parts of Kentucky throughout the day and into Friday. A few cautions to punctuate and reiterate what the governor has already said. We urge everyone to travel, keep travel to a minimum, or forego travel altogether. I want to thank the traveling public now for already having implemented many of these. They have limited their travel already, and we want to thank them because that allows our vehicles, our emergency vehicles, our transportation, our snowplows, and our salt trucks to actually do their work. So thank you. We want to caution and suggest to be alert for changing weather conditions as temperatures fall. That's what the director was just mentioning. Freezing rain is hard to detect with the eye. It may look like ordinary rain, but when temperatures and pavement temperatures drop low enough, the rain freezes and accumulates on the surface. So be prepared as this storm advances for the possibility of downed trees and power lines under the weight of accumulated ice. It can happen quickly. I'm going to tell you where it's already happening in just a minute. And remember, too, that bridges freeze before pavement. There's also the possibility of local flooding, as the governor and the director have already mentioned. Now, warnings and advisories. Ice storm warning area, the governor's already talked about this. In fact, I'm not going to reiterate all of that because you all have covered it well. But let me tell you about the transportation cabinet activities for a minute, our snow and ice control activities. There are crews all across the state, our highway districts from west to east throughout the state that took advantage of a gap between storms to restock salt and other materials and get their equipment ready. And more than upwards of 1,500 pieces of equipment are today active in this work. Upwards of 2,000 employees in the Department of Highways activated. Our crews and our contractors will do everything that can be done to make roadways passable. But this is the third time I've said that. The best advice remains for the public to please stay off the roadways. Now I'm going to do a quick report on Western Kentucky, the transportation districts. Far Western Kentucky, District 1, based in Paducah. What's occurred last night was a closing of US 45, the Ohio River Bridge to Brookport, Illinois, because of icing. Reports now are of trees and limbs down in these counties: Caldwell, Christian, Hopkins, and Webster. Lyon, just recently, we've just got this report. Lyon, Marshall, Callaway, and Trigg. In District 4, Breckenridge, the Hardinsburg area, and also trees are down and there is icing reported in Oldham. Now about salting, where conditions permit, our crews have begun putting down salt, of course, but that means where pavement temperatures are certain to drop below freezing, but are not yet too low for salt to be effective. So there is that zone, and it can be challenging, but we are placing it. And the purpose of this is to try to move that icing condition into a slushing condition to prevent the hard bonding of freezing rain to the pavement. Okay, I want to close with this. The screen has it up here, but for current conditions, for current transportation conditions, that is travel resources, traffic conditions, priority routes, and winter safety tips, go to snow.ky.gov. Governor, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you, sir.
I think you have my notes too.
I did. Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't think I did. Maybe.
Oh, Michael Dossett has my notes. Just one second.
Governor, this is not the first time I've done this.
It is not. It is not. All right. With Western Kentucky already getting hit again, I just want to provide one piece of what I hope folks find as good news. To our uninsured homeowners and uninsured renters that were harmed by the December 10th tornadoes, the Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund has now issued payments that add 20% on top of FEMA awards. So 425 uninsured homeowners are receiving collectively $1,223,985.14. Those payments have been sent. And then 693 uninsured renters are receiving collectively $559,550.34. Altogether, it's a little over $2.5 million that's been paid out of the fund thus far, and we will have more news on how those dollars are going to help rebuilding efforts here in the coming weeks. All right, so we'll open it up to questions. We'll start with Carolina.
Governor, as far as power goes, is Kentucky's infrastructure stable enough to ensure that when power goes out, we can restore it quickly? And then also, is there any consideration to possibly close major roads, possibly interstates, to avoid the situation that we had last month?
So right now, there's no plan to close interstates. I will say the latest predictions from the National Weather Service suggest I-64 is going to get, in particular, pretty bad tonight. As far as our power, we still have a lot of above ground power lines, and how many will lose power may depend on loss of trees throughout these neighborhoods, and also how much ice we get, meaning how much it will weigh it down. We already have about 4,000 people that have lost power. We are going to have more that lose power. With that said, we don't at this moment believe that it'll rise to the 2009 levels where people were out of power for significant periods of time. But it remains to be seen. And every time we think we know exactly how many people will lose power based on an event, we're taught that Mother Nature has its own mind. Karen.
In years past, we've been able to rely on other states to help if we have a lot of down lines. Clearly, so many states are being hit. How is that going to affect us? And then one more. In Western Kentucky, is this going to hamper getting more trailers set up this week?
So there's two questions here. Can we expect help from other states? It'll depend on the amount of damage we get. Other places are getting hit by huge amounts of snow. So we will see if our number of especially people without power gets very large. I think we can expect to have additional help. But this is, one country. As we face events like this, we know that most of the resources will go to where they are most needed. We are on the edge, but certainly the ice and the flooding can be significant here. Will it slow down getting some people into travel trailers? We have a lot of our transportation cabinet out being prepared to treat these roads and keep people safe. It may delay it by a couple of days, but we are still pushing forward with both staging them and really the process of going through to place a family in them takes just as long as actually staging. We're now reaching into some separate categories, down from just people with school-age children. Next category is people with young children that might not be in school, and then we'll get families with seniors, and after that, we will reach people who need to be closer because of their jobs. So those are the categories that we're moving through. Chelsea.
What plans are in place for people who are, their power goes out and they have nowhere else to go? And then my other question is, what advice do you have for people who do have power outages and hard to access places, perhaps they live up a cliff?
So we have, I think, 26 warming stations that are prepared to be activated. One has been activated. I believe that's in Nelson County. And we'll have others if necessary. We'll get those words out in the community, and the local emergency management is doing that so people have a place to come. People need to charge their phones, especially if they're living in difficult areas in case they need to call for help. Certainly, we've activated the National Guard. The state police is ready, transportation cabinet to help those that may need a rescue. When we have weather events, oftentimes flooding, but also major snowstorms and power outages, these are routine rescues that are done. When I was in Ashland, beginning of last year, for an ice storm, beginning of last year, for an ice storm, a number of the people there had to be brought by the National Guard. So make sure to charge those phones, and also make sure to check in on your neighbors, especially the ones that might be more remote. You should do things to try to weatherize your house if you lose power, right? Put things up against the door, look at your windows, do everything you can to try to keep the heat in. Don't open that door, right? Because the amount of heat you will lose, you cannot get back. And I know our utilities will be doing their best to communicate in real time to people what they're looking at. Bodie.
Governor, there's been pictures all over social media of grocery store shelves being absolutely raided. Of course, it's a good thing people are getting stocked up and ready for this storm. And given what you all have shared today, that the forecast is not quite as strong as it was yesterday, what should folks really be preparing for, and when can we quote-unquote expect it?
So the weather event itself is going to go through Friday morning, but it may take longer on Friday and will take longer to get the roads cleared and ready for use. But we hope, and we have some caution because of where temperatures are going to go, but we hope we're looking at days here and not weeks. Now, part of that will depend on what type of power lines may or may not go down for individuals, but people just need to be at the moment prepared for a couple days. And if in their region it's tougher than that, we'll need to be in contact, get them to one of those warming stations and get them extra help. But I don't think there's a need to make a run on a week or 2 weeks worth of food. Getting through a couple days, we'll probably do it. Debbie Yetter, Courier-Journal.
Hi, Governor.
Also,
I wondered if you had any, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello? Okay.
I can hear you,
Do
Debbie.
you have any updated information on COVID today? And does it look like cases are continuing to decline?
Yeah, cases are continuing to decline. I really think it'll be next week when we have all of next week's data that we'll start to see how rapidly it's declining. I believe overall for the state, we crested last week or really the week before going into it, but some parts of the state are just cresting now, and I think just about everybody will be on the downturn, will be declining in cases. And once that starts, once each of our areas is crested, I think the pace of our cases going down will increase. But every day we're having a little bit less. Now that could be 400 or 500 cases less, and that's a whole lot if we go back in time. And our positivity rate continues to fall, though it is ticking down. It's not going down by 2 or 3 percentage points each day. I will say on the flip side, the pace of vaccinations is also declining. But when you look at all those things together, it does suggest that we are in a downward trend. That's a good thing. We just want it to go down a whole lot faster. Tom Latek.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon to you. I've got two. One's real quick, and the other is maybe a little more thought-provoking. First of all, how many Kentucky Guard members do we have deployed? And secondly, you may remember in the Jones administration, they closed state government because of a bad winter storm, and a number of state employees who were on vacation sued so they could get their vacation days back. Will the folks who are on vacation this week get their days back?
They need to be in touch with the personnel cabinet. I know about that event during the Jones administration. I believe that we have changed our policies to address it and how the personnel cabinet operates, but I'd want to get the official process from them. I do believe when we close offices, it has been adjusted how we handle it since that time. And then the other piece was, now we'll get you the number of National Guard members. I mean, certainly between hospitals and this, it's a very large number generally that's out there. But they're pre-positioned right now and 5 or 6 set locations, but certainly ready to be amplified. And the way we position them is with transportation and their heavy machinery, with KSP, and with the Guard, to the point where if we had a bad accident and ultimately really backed up, say on the interstate, that we could get 2 people. A lot of what the Guard is prepared to do is help stranded motorists, and then we'll transition to wellness checks and other parts of the mission of the Guard. Austin Horn.
Thank you, Governor. I'm curious, do you have a rough sense of how many total outages we can expect in the state? And I'm also wondering if you can speak to whether or not this whole back-to-back-to-back storm pattern has been draining on you guys and the emergency management staff and, everybody that's had to deal with it.
So that leads into another question I had. How rare is it to be in this situation where 4 states of emergency have been declared in 2 months? We don't think it's ever happened before. And certainly what we faced in 2 years with the pandemic and all of this has never happened before. But we are seeing more weather events in a short period of time than any of us can recall. And I think Michael Dossett has been with emergency management since its founding. Well, okay, for the last 30 years. Right. Well, he's retiring. We got to give him a little grief as he goes. But it's unprecedented. And then the nature of them having some of the most severe, also unprecedented. It takes a toll on you emotionally, but it hits everybody, right? So our job is just to come in and to push through and to do our very best. We can't get tired, whether it's in the governor's office or emergency management, state police, National Guard, transportation cabinet, because if we get tired, other people get tired. And we have a job to do, and no matter how many days we got to show up, we're going to do it. Now, that's easy for me to say. Our folks that are out there doing the work deserve the praise for pushing through and showing a great example of resiliency. Was there one other part of that question? Okay. If there was, Austin, shoot it to us, and we'll get back to you with it. Gil McClanahan. Oh, no, the other question, hold on, Gil, was do we have an estimate on how many people will lose power? No, it really depends. If some of the bigger systems have issues, the National Weather Service couldn't make a prediction at all on exactly what we'll see. What we can do is give periodic updates on where we are and how many people are without. Remember, some places are going to get hit tonight, even after dark. So it could change drastically at different periods of time. Okay, Gil McClanahan with our last question.
All right, thank you, Governor. Good to be with you this afternoon. I wanted to make sure that I understood you correctly. Earlier, when you started this briefing, were you saying that the ice event probably will not be as severe in Eastern Kentucky versus Western Kentucky, that here in Eastern Kentucky, flooding will be the issue? And with all of that being said, what sort of resources have you sent to this part of the state?
Yeah, so we're working with Eastern Kentucky both to set up warming centers. We have some of our National Guard, Kentucky State Police, transportation, pre-staged assets in Eastern Kentucky, working with emergency management folks. They're ready to treat the roads, especially the most traveled roads in Eastern Kentucky through the transportation cabinet. Let's bring up the very first slide, James, and that'll show you. So there was a change since yesterday. That dark purple area, which is the most concerning for ice, used to run all the way over to Ashland in a diagonal line, and then kind of everything north of it. Now it does not appear that part of Eastern Kentucky, or really southeastern Kentucky, is predicted to get hit as hard with ice. It can still get ice, and it can get snow, and it can get nasty. But the area of the worst prediction is of course that dark purple area. Now, we do believe that there is going to be some ice. We do believe that there's going to be some snow, and then there's a whole lot of precipitation, especially in the southeast, where we would anticipate flooding. So what I would say is in Eastern Kentucky, with roads that can be at times more treacherous than other regions, you are still facing a severe weather event. Stay off the roads if you can. I wouldn't take a lot of solace in the fact that this map has changed because you know how flooding hits your region, and we expect to see it. All right. With that, we will continue to provide updates. Right now, we anticipate we'll do that by releases and on social media. For media members, feel free to continue sending your questions. We'll let you know if we need to schedule another live update. Likely to have one sometime late tomorrow morning, early tomorrow afternoon, but we'll let you know. Thank you all very much.